Tom Yum Media. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, the Tom Yum Adventurer.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Tom Yum Adventurer. If you've been watching our previous videos, I promised that we'll be doing a special review of a very important piece of equipment. And voila, behold, the Yamaha XMAX 300. This thing will be our workhorse, carrying us from one adventure to the other. And before we get into the opinion part of this bike, well, this is my bike and I've owned it for about a year plus. And I've done around 9,000 kilometers on it. So I know this bike very well. Those of you who are not satisfied with me calling this bike, yes, this is technically a scooter, but it's got two wheels. And all the principles that you apply in riding your motorcycles apply to this as well. But the principles that apply to this might not apply to a motorcycle. So let's get on with it. The XMAX 300. First, let's read out the spec sheet on this machine. And for that, I need my cheat sheet. There's my cheat sheet. There it is. This thing is 292 cc. It's got single cylinder, 4-stroke, single overhead cam. 27.6 horsepower, 20.2 kilowatts at 7,250 RPM. You usually don't ride all the way up to 7,250 RPM on this bike. Usually you're hovering around 6,000 RPM most of the time. 29 nanometers of torque, 21.4 pound-foot at 5,750 RPM, which is very usable. Bore and stroke, 70 by 75.9. Injection, fuel injected engine, 4 valves per cylinder. It breathes pretty well. And transmission is automatic. Power delivery is through a V-belt automatic system. And the front wheel telescoping forks travel 110 millimeters. The front forks are pretty good. The rear, however, only travel at 84 millimeters. The front tires are 120 by 70 15-inch rims. The rear tires are 140 by 70 14-inch rims. So these are pretty big tires for a scooter. They do well on the highways and they do well in the city. The front brakes, the front discs are around 267 millimeters. The rear discs are 245 millimeters. Well, the rear brakes are a little weak, but they're very usable. The way they are set up, it really helps out in the comfort department and the controllability of the bike during traffic. And the most important figure, this bike only weighs 179 kilograms. Yes, she's not very heavy. And that is a blessing because when you are in traffic or when you have a pillion, this bike doesn't tire you out. Now, as I said, I've owned this bike for a year and I've done 9,000 kilometers on it. And in the next section, when we go out riding, you will see that city traffic and highway traffic, especially in Thailand, is not like that of Europe or America. This bike fits in really well. It delivers power enough that you can travel at speeds on highway, and it has enough acceleration and enough agility to run around cars in town. Where should we start first? I guess the ride and handling. The handling is on the sporty side because of those 84 millimeter rear shocks, and these are vertical shocks. The way they are set up, the shocks transmit a lot of vibrations from the road into the seat. Luckily, this seat is one of the softest and most comfortable seats in the market. So this mitigates a lot of that shock. I am not a big fan of these shocks, not at all. In 9,000 kilometers, I've wished over and over again to replace them. But it's not time for that yet. The front forks are pretty good. They absorb a lot of shocks on the road. And overall, I think the engineers thought that they would give this bike a more sporty feel. So yes, this bike is very controllable, even at speeds. Not that I would recommend you trying to ride this bike like a motorcycle. That will not work, especially at high speeds, and especially in monsoon seasons when the crosswinds are really high. Then this bike stops responding at high speed. I've gotten myself in quite terrible situations before. As for this bike, there are not many modifications. I'm not that into modifying my bike, so this is pretty much factory. The only things that I've changed on this bike is automatic tire pressure sensors, which is very important. You need to know that your tires have correct pressure before you ride every time. I modified the mirrors. Usually the mirrors are here on the handlebar out, but the problem with that kind of mirror is that every time you twist the handlebar, the angle of the mirror changes, so I really didn't like that. So I decided that, hey, I will modify it and I will mount Yamaha R3 mirrors to the front. They are completely functional. They even fold back in such a manner. And so during traffic, when you need the bike to be a little slimmer, you pull them back. The bike is very urban-centric. Well, technically you will not call it urban-centric. It is very friendly. I mean, this thing is, it is your everyday friend. It will take you at speeds, it will bring you back home, and you don't have to carry your shopping bags. You can just store them inside this compartment. This entire compartment underneath the seat is storage. And then it's got two storage compartments here. Usually I put my cell phones and my wallets and a charging compartment on this side. So if you need electrical power, there's a 12-volt socket on this side, but you have to be careful. It's not a 10 amp socket. It's only maybe a 5 amp socket. So last time I tried to hook up a compressor, an air compressor to this thing, it blew the fuse. Yep, I attached a phone holder to it so that, you know, the GPS can be displayed in the front of the bike. And that's about it. That's all the modifications to this bike. And of course, when I removed the mirrors, I replaced them with these mini handlebars, so to speak, so that I can clamp on more gear to the bike in the future. And let's show you what's inside this compartment. So there is a jog wheel right here, and this operates the entire bike. It opens the fuel cap, it locks the handlebars. It will also put it in a position where you can use buttons down here to open either the lid on this side where you access your power, the charge port, and of course that will also open the seat. And inside you can have 2 helmets, but you cannot store something like this. It needs to be a full face helmet or one of those modular helmets, and it can be pretty big. The compartment is big, but this beak right here doesn't fit. The compartment is very big, so if you pack for like a short journey to, let's just say, a vacation town 2 hours away, 3 hours away, you might even not have to carry a backpack. And there's a little toolkit here, an LED light so that you can see in the dark. It's a small light, so usually I really struggle seeing what's inside this bike in the dark, but it's better than not having any light at all. Then we have the fuel cap and the fuel port, which is in there, which is easy to release. You press it in once and you release the door, and there's a little twisty cap thing in the inside. You twist it, you release it, and you put the fuel in. Overall, this thing takes around 11 liters of fuel. It's very fuel efficient. If you really ride it efficiently, this thing will do 37 kilometers to a liter. Yep. But I don't know. Nowadays, the cars are quite efficient also, but still, a 37 kilometers per liter fuel economy is pretty good. I mean, you rarely have to go into a gas station. Maybe I'll go into a gas station once a week if I'm using it every day. Sometimes only twice a month. Yeah, the wheels themselves, the rear ones are small, but they give the bike more agility. It allows the bike to twist more since there are less gyroscopic forces being generated in these wheels. The only problem is that when you have a pillion, somebody riding with you at the back, the bike becomes even lower, right? So on bumps and all of that, sometimes you are in a risk of bottoming out. But only happened to me once or twice in 2 years, in about a year plus. And I'm about 6 feet, and you can easily stand on this bike in 6 feet. So you see, my feet, both my feet are on the floor. But the problem mainly is on this seat itself. It is quite wide, so it forces your legs to extend out about 45, 35 degree angle, and that's why most people cannot reach the ground. But that is not really that problematic, since you can lean it to the side, one side or the other, and your feet will eventually hit the ground. As I said, the rear brakes are a little weak, but they have their function. Usually what they are there for is stability when you're in traffic, and you'll see that in the next section when we navigate through Bangkok traffic.
Hello, and welcome to the channel. I'm the Tom Yum Adventurer. Please leave a like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. And please visit the Patreon page. Every little bit helps. See you soon.